They're in Kyle, Texas.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm from Buda, so we're real close to each other. We have a shop here, but we're hoping to eventually print houses all over the world. So before they're tearing down this house that we just tested our printer with, so we're about to go in about 3 weeks and print a full house up in North Austin for some homeless people. So we're going to start printing houses up there, and we're going to print some more in Austin, and we're going to print some in South America. So I will get back to what the difference is between a 3D printed house and a regular house in just a few minutes. So let me go take you on a quick tour. My screen will probably go dark or be fuzzy for just a second, and I'll be in the shop in about 10 seconds. Here we go. All right, so this is our office. We got people doing science. Jason Ballard, say hi to a class full of 5th graders. Hello, guys. We're inspired for 3D printing. That was Jason Ballard. And here, so here, I'll show you our first printer. See, use my laptop here. Okay, so this was our first printer, this big silver colored thing. And you can see that's a door I just went through, so it's pretty big. That was our first one. And now this is our second one here. So this is the one that I'll show you a video of in a little bit. And there it is. You guys see that?
Yes.
So it's about 30 feet wide. So it's about as big as your whole classroom probably. And so what that lets us do, there's some guys over here. Sorry, I'm doing a quick tour here. So over here, I'll try to be still. So this is our other printer. This is our last test printer. And with this printer, we printed this house here. And so you can see the walls. So this is a little room here. And we print these nice curved corners. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
And come around this way and show you how it's made. So you can see some of the structure in here getting torn down, and they're getting it out of there. So it's probably confusing as why we're destroying it, but basically we have a whole lot of software that we have to test, and we have to test our concrete mixture. And unfortunately, one of the only ways to do that is just to print houses with it. And so we have this nice controlled environment in the form of our laboratory that lets us do all that. So let me head back to the quiet spot. All right, here we go. Back into the quiet room. Okay, so let me see if I can show you a picture of my screen here. Can I?
Yeah, there should be down at the bottom, there should be a start presenting button that you can click on to share your screen.
Yep. Share. Okay, can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
All right, so this is what it looks like when our printer runs. So we have this little nozzle, and it puts out concrete, and it makes the little corners. And so what that's able, or what that lets us do, is we program it. There's us printing our logo here. So as that concrete comes out, it actually builds these walls one layer at a time. So just like a regular 3D printer with plastic, this one just uses concrete and it prints the entire house. So if you look at, let's see, technology. See, here's our Vulcan 2 that I just showed you in the lab. And so what we do is we bring this printer out on a really big 18-wheeler trailer, and we roll it off the printer, or sorry, off the trailer, and we set it up on the foundation that's poured for the house. The foundation's like the big chunk of concrete at the bottom. And then our printer just starts printing, and we're able to start by just drawing lines on a wall, or I mean on a computer, and then it actually prints them out in 3D. So let's see if there's any other good. So here's our software that we built for printing. So when the printer's running, you can see this little graphic of how it looks, and you can adjust the printer and things like that. And then we have our Icon Studio here where we're able to, let's see if I can zoom in on that. There we go. So I'm able to come in here in this Icon Studio program. So we built all this software in-house here, and we draw these lines, and then we send them over to the printer, and we calibrate the printer, and then it starts printing. And then this becomes our user interface, so we carry this around while we're printing, and that's what we end up with, is the nice big house. So let me head back to our meeting. Stop sharing my screen, and let's go from there. So I guess a little bit of history about my role, or what I do in my role at the company. So I started working with computers when I was like probably your age, about 4th or 5th grade, and I just had a lot of fun with computers in general. So I started playing games. You guys play Fortnite?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. So I played some different games like StarCraft and some of the other ones, but it's what got me really into computers as games. And so I found out that, as I was learning more and more about computers, a lot of people liked programming computers, like how you would program a game. But what I really liked is when the computer could actually move stuff around in the real world, like robots and sensors. So it could say like, it's raining, so don't turn on the sprinkler system or something. I liked when computers could kind of reach into the real world, like kind of get outside of just the screen and interact with things. And so that's what got me interested in what I've come to call mechatronics. So mechatronics is a term that people sometimes use for mechanical, electrical, and robotics and control systems. So basically all of those things, the mechanical side would be how you actually build that printer. What kind of bearings and wheels and motors and all the stuff that makes it move. So that's the mechanical side. Then there's the electrical side, which is how do we make those motors turn? Where do we plug in the printer? How do the sensors work to determine, how high off the ground we are and things like that. So that's the electrical side. And then there's a control side. And the control side is really where I do most of my work. And so it's when we have a house that is just a design and we want to be able to print that house out, how do we turn a design of a house into something that makes a big machine move? And so that's what I started working on about probably 10 years ago after I got out of college. I started working with robots. I was always fascinated with the big robots that build cars. I don't know if you've seen the commercials of just the big robot arms that do welding and all kinds of stuff like that. So you should take a look at them if you haven't seen them. But I started working with those, and I worked with them in a bunch of factories all over the country. And at some point, I started a company a couple years ago that helped other companies with their robots. So if you have a company and you build cars, that doesn't mean you know anything about robots. And so like this company here, we print houses, but that doesn't mean we knew anything about robots starting out. So this company got in contact with me to help them make their robot move around and do their printing and handle their concrete and all that kind of stuff that it does. They got in touch with me, and I ended up really liking it over here at Icon, and so I started working here full time. So that's the story of kind of how I got with Icon and what we do. And I guess to wrap that up, like I said, we plan on doing a bunch of houses coming up this year. We should have probably 50 or 60 houses printed in the next 9 months is our goal. So we have 3 printers that are going to do that, and it takes about maybe a day or 2 to print a house if things are going well. It could take as long as a week if they're not. But to be clear, we don't print the entire house at this point. We print just the wall systems, and then we'll come back and put a roof on it. So what that lets us do is save a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of money, and we end up with a stronger house in the end. So that's the plan. That's where we plan to take it. Do you guys have questions about 3D printing or houses in general? Maybe it's a good time to take some questions.
Sure. You guys have any questions for Mr. Jensen?
Somebody does for sure.
I got one. So
All right.
you're talking about being able to roll out these houses. Is this going to be in the Austin area, or are you guys looking like more across the country or the globe?
That's a good question. So our business model has started with a partnership with a nonprofit called New Story, and this is all public knowledge from our unveiling that happened back in March at South by Southwest. And basically, what happened is that company, they go to third world countries, which are countries that the people don't have as nice of things as we do, right? There's people who are living in cardboard houses made out of boxes and plastic and stuff that's not what we would consider a home. They're living in those conditions. So what this nonprofit does, called News Story, is they get with people who have a little bit of extra money and they want to give back to the world or give back to their fellow people, and they buy them houses. So this company, News Story, has built, I don't want to misquote it, but I think about 800 houses over the last year for people. So they were a big part of us getting started and trying to cut some of the cost on these, like, kind of what we would consider small, but perfectly good houses. So the plan for them is to print 100 houses in Latin America. So that's, somewhere south of us, south of our border here. So that's moving forward, and we should be doing that in about 2 months or so. And we should end up with 50 duplexes here within 9 to 12 months, somewhere around that time frame. So that's going to take potentially 400 people who are living in substandard poor houses, just really bad houses, and it's going to give them a nice house that's going to last a really long time, and it's going to keep their family. Hang on, sorry. It's going to keep. One moment here.
Any calls, man? It's okay.
I don't know how to get it to stop. It'll stop in a moment. I don't know how loud that is for you guys. So there we go. It's done. So anyway, that is a big part of our business, is trying to help people that are low incomes to get houses when they couldn't afford one otherwise. So we're investigating every partnership we can with nonprofits, and there's a thing, I don't know if the fifth graders know the word philanthropy, but it's people who want to help people. And so that's a big part of our business, is making sure that we help the people who really want to help people, and we're going to try to help as many of them as possible in as short of a time frame as we can. And we're trying to deliver them a really, really good house. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but basically that is a big part of our model, is to print for anyone. But with that said, we are a very small company. We're only about 18 people right now. And so for us to go and print in all these different places in the world, it's really going to stretch our team and make us, it's going to be incredibly challenging to do that with such a small team. So for the short term, we have decided that our plan is to focus more on Central Texas. So we have gotten together with some groups to go and print houses for homeless communities here in the area, in Central Texas, near Austin. So we also have partnerships with some housing developers to make houses more in the 1,500 to 2,000 square foot range, which would be a lot more like what we're used to seeing around here. So we will be doing 3 of those houses by the end of the year as well. So we're moving forward. We're definitely trying to get as many put up as possible. And there's a lot of people who don't understand that, we're trying to change the way houses are built, and a lot of people just don't understand it. So that's why I like to talk to you guys about it. People who may not already have a way in mind that they think houses should be built, and let us say to you, well, why can't we do it like this instead? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, you spoke to the homeless and kind of being a little bit more philanthropic, could someone purchase a house from you guys? Is this something that you guys are doing for more of a commercial market as well?
Eventually, we hope that's what happens, is that if somebody wants a house, they should be able to get a loan for that house, and we should be able to come out and print it. And with our studio application, what we're really trying to do is take the architecture, which is like the design of the house, and all the stuff that makes building a house really hard, because not just anybody can build a house that's going to last for 100 years. So we're going to take a lot of that hard stuff and try to make it where we do all the hard stuff, but then we give you guys, or the people who are buying the house, the option to customize the house.
That's on our end, sorry.
No problem. And so we're hoping to give that to somebody. So if one of you guys wanted to build a house, you could drag your room to be as big as you want it. You can say, no, I want the bedroom to be bigger. I want the kitchen to be smaller. I want the kitchen to be smaller, but I want the front porch to be bigger. And you can decide that, and then just hit print, and it'll just print a house that works. So that's the plan, but we are also very resource limited at this point, so we're not selling houses to just anybody right now. We're really looking for partnerships where we can help people and build a business. But that is the goal within the next probably year or two, is to be able to deliver houses to anybody who wants one, and hopefully anybody who needs one as a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did anybody have any questions as he was kind of talking about that? Yes, sir, right up here in the front. Did you hear that question?
I did not.
Can you say it a little bit louder?
How does your company make money?
How do we make money? That's a great question.
Teachers, please make sure to post your attendance. Thank you.
So that's a great question. How do we make money? So when we started, we took on some investment from a couple of companies that are interested in us doing really well. So some of them are construction companies that say, let me put it this way. If you're a big construction company and you make a house in Kyle, you know when they make those big neighborhoods and they just put a ton of houses in? So every one of those houses, they want it to be as cheap as possible so that people can buy them, but they still need to make their money so that their company makes money. And so what they're interested in is cutting any amount of extra cost that they had in that and trying to turn that into profit so that they can continue. And so those companies need that money so badly and to shave a little bit of money off the cost of a home, that they see our technology as a way to do that. So if we can cut 5% off the cost of a home, then we've saved them a lot of money. So there's a few companies like that who saw our technology and liked it enough to where they actually gave us a bunch of money just to develop it. And so as we're working towards that, we're also working to help them use our technology to build those houses. And so at the moment, we're not making any money, because even if somebody comes up to us and says, here's $200,000, please print me a home, we probably have to say no to that at this point. So we're not really making money in that way, but that is our plan eventually, is to get the technology up to a point where we're able to say yes. And so that's how we'll make money, is just like anybody else is, or anybody else in the housing and construction industry is, hey, we need 50 houses in Latin America, and we have the money to pay for it. We just need you to build it. And so if that costs, just for sake of a number, say that's $1 million, and we can do it for $900,000, then we keep the extra $100,000 for our company. So that's how we're intending to make money. It's just like anybody else who builds a house.
Great question. Anybody else?
How much do you guys think it costs to build? Anybody have a guess? $1,000?
$5?
5,000?
Like 3,500?
3,500? What you got? 100,000? 45,000? 200,000? Price is right? Low end, high end, where we at, Evan?
So let's say a home like the one that we printed in Austin was 350 square feet. So a home that large would probably cost, in Kyle, Texas, probably around, if you were gonna buy it, Already built would be about $100,000, maybe a little bit less. And so you don't normally see houses quite that size. It's a little smaller than what we're used to, but I would put it at probably around $80,000 to $100,000. To build that house would probably cost about $50,000 in material and time and all of that. So you have to buy the wood for the walls, you have to buy the wood for the roof, you have to pour the foundation, the plumbing, the electrical, all that. So what we're shooting for is to take that $50,000 house and get it down to $25,000. So we're trying to cut that completely in half. So if you're buying a house and it's $100,000, we could either give you twice as much house or it could cost half as much. So that's our goal with 3D printing. See, so I can take you guys out real quick. Let's see how much time we have. It's been 25 minutes. I can show you a couple of our prints a little bit closer and show you some of the walls, if you want to do that, or
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
what do you think? Okay, let me show you a few of the things we printed. I'll just walk you around the building again real quick, and then I'll do one more question, and then we'll wrap it after that.
Okay, yeah, thank
Just a moment. All right, so this one here, let's see. This one is one of our test prints. It's nice and small. We call it the dog house because we have a little dog that runs around here named Rita. I haven't seen her, I don't know where she is, but so this is our dog house, and we have finished it in a couple of different ways. So let me see, I'm looking at this little tiny screen here, so bear with me. So this is a finish we put on here to kind of cover up the rib section. So this is what it looks like right after it gets done printing, and this has just been painted. So we have each one of these layers was put down individually, and you can see hopefully from the top view we've got this zigzag that goes in the middle, and that's to help the wall stay up and to make it really strong. So we just have air in there. Let's see if I'm showing that appropriately. There we go. So you can see down in that little hole probably. And that's our dog house. We just do these little things to test our process and our printer. You can see maybe this is on the inside here. Can we make that up? Yeah. So this is like just the raw concrete. It's really strong. It's a lot stronger than a regular house, and it should last hundreds of years. So a long, long, long time. Let me see if our prints are still outside the backyard. So, oh, it's raining. Not expect that. I don't want to get my computer all rained on, but this is our trailer. You see that?
Yes.
Trailer. So that's the trailer that our printer goes into. And then I'm going to run out real quick because it's raining and show you these other prints we made. Can y'all see these? Okay, so there's an S that we printed and painted yellow. Got another S that's red, printed an X shape, and then a big W. So that was for our South by Southwest. And here's another shot of our trailer rope. Wait. There we go. There's our big trailer that the printer goes on. So let me run back in because it's raining on my computer. Oh, I gotta go around. I got locked out, guys. Come on. Okay, here's the front. And our lobby here with all of our awards and stuff that we've been getting. So that's pretty cool. And just a few more real quick. Okay, back inside now. These are our other finishes, so just some more paint. And then here's like a, can you see that? It's like,
it's kind of like stucco.
So it looks like a regular house would have on it. And
now,
then,
the 3D printer actually printed that texture as well, or is that something that you guys put on that after?
It did not. So these are options for finishing the prints after the fact.
Gotcha.
So you can come in. So I personally kind of like this texture because you can put lights on it and it just makes everything look really cool. But some people don't like it, and so on the outside of your house, you can do something more like this. Or if you want it like on the inside of the house, you know how the walls always are textured a certain way inside a house, you can do that as well. So that's about it. I'll show you one quick shot of our material trailer. That's where all the concrete gets mixed up and pushed through a big hose and it goes out the print. So, yeah, that's about it. And, yeah. Any other questions, guys?
So,
Okay.
yes, go ahead.
Are the houses made out of cement?
Yes. Did you hear that question?
I did not.
So the houses are made out of cement?
Yeah, so we actually call it, it's concrete. So concrete is made up of two things, cement and aggregate. And cement is a glue. It's like Elmer's glue almost that you put in something. So then the aggregate is rocks and sand. And so we have all of these tools here that lets us adjust our mix. And so we got, bags of concrete, and we have really big bags of concrete mix. And so yes, we mix it up, we add water to our mix, and we add a couple of other little fancy chemicals to our mix that make it work really well. And then that comes out the end of the nozzle. So that's actually been one of the most challenging parts is designing that mix. It's not something you can just go pick up at the store. We have to have it custom mixed, and we have to get it just right. We have to add just the right amount of water, and all of that changes based on how hot it is outside or if it's raining or not and all that. So that's a lot of what our technology is, and I think that's a lot of what's going to keep us ahead of the competition. The other people trying to do this is our ability to control that material. So
how long would it take for the material to solidify?
That's a great question. So when we're printing, we are putting down a wet layer, and then about anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes later, we're able to put another layer down. So that lets us build up a house the size of the one I showed you earlier. It takes about 96 layers at 15 minutes, which comes in at, I want to say, around 20 to 24 hours to print that house. So it takes a long time for concrete to actually get hard. It takes usually within, let's say, 15 minutes, you couldn't stand on it. It'll hold a little bit of weight, but in an hour, you can stand on it. And in 3 hours, you could park a car on top of it. And then in one day, you could put a roof on top and call it a house. But it really isn't done curing until you get to about 45 days. So a whole month it takes to get all the way hard. But it's usable from then, and like if you were building a big bridge out of it, you wouldn't want to put that bridge into service until all that stuff is hardened. But that is something we have to pay attention to, is when we're printing, if we have some reason that we have to stop, then we have our big line that goes from our material system to our printer. And if we let that concrete get hard in there, it ruins a whole lot of money worth of pipe. So we have to be very careful and very quick and very fast about how we approach that and make sure that we don't get concrete stuck inside our printer.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions? Well, just kind of as a last comment, we have a group here that's about to go into middle school, and we have a pretty robust STEAM curriculum here in Hays. What would you tell these students in terms of just pursuing their passions? What would you say would help them kind of see success in whatever career fields they want to go into? This is super innovative.
Right. Sorry for the noise in the background, but what I would say is like I mentioned with video games, is I noticed that early on was something that I really wanted to do, something I liked to do. And then I realized that it wasn't always just the games, it was just the computer in general. I just was really interested in that. And so the whole time I've been working on computers and robots and all that stuff. I didn't do it because I felt like I had to do it. I did it because it's what I really enjoyed. And so that's why I've been able to get good at it over time, is because I did it a lot because I liked it, and I found out that people will pay me to do it. So if I was doing a job that I didn't like, I wouldn't be a happy person. So I'm able to come in because I just followed what I enjoyed doing. I'm able to come into work every day and have fun and just build the stuff I want to build and do the things I want to do. So I guess that's my advice, is that if computers aren't your thing, that's okay. But if computers are your thing, or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, do it as much as possible and try to keep it enjoyable. And as you grow up, things will change. Like, you'll find new interests. But what I found is that the more I learn about all of this stuff, the more I find it interesting. So hopefully you guys have the same experience. And when I was in school, let me walk outside some more so it's not noisy. When I was in school, we didn't have STEM programs. We didn't have a lot of computer science being taught in schools and things like that. So you're in a really good time where a lot of people are putting in a lot of work to make sure that you kids or your students know that engineering and mathematics and all of the sciences are available to you. So I was probably set up to be an engineer when I was a little kid. I just didn't know anybody called it that, right? I knew I liked building things. I knew I liked robots, but I didn't know that was actually a thing that you could do for work. And so once I found that, it took me until college to realize that's really what I wanted to do. But once I found it, I took off and I had a great time doing it. So that's my advice, is just stick with what you enjoy and work as hard as you can at it, as hard as you want to at it, and pay attention in math, because I was not ever the best at math, but I find myself where I need to use it all the time. And it's really cool to be able to solve problems like that from what you learn in school. So.
Yeah, excellent advice. Excellent advice. Do you have any other comments or questions? Well, we are so grateful that you took some of your valuable time away, and looks like you guys are doing some amazing things over there. And just thank you so much for giving us a tour and answering our questions and making this happen for us, making our curriculum come alive a little bit for us.
Awesome. Well, and maybe at in a couple of months when we're out on the site printing a house up in North Austin, we can do another one of these, and I'll show you guys where we're at.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
That sound good, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think 3D printing is cool or no?
Yes.
Cool.
I think you made some fans for life, man.
All right.
All right, buddy, can we all say goodbye?
Thank
Have a great day.
Thanks so much, Evan. Appreciate it.
Oh, you want to see the video? Okay.
So as we're getting that set up, right?